Hey guys, if you're watching this, you were not able to make it to my Wolves online reading group. So I'm going to go do an activity here that reviews some of the skills we were working on before we got out of school. And we're actually going to work today on the TCH sound. That's where we were before we left. And we're going to do an activity that goes along with the story. And then we're going to do a main idea graphic organizer. If you want to grab some paper and pencil, you can, and then you can follow along and draw the organizers with me. If at any point you need to pause the video, you're more than welcome to. Go ahead and take your time. So we're going to go ahead and get started first by just going over some letter sounds that we were practicing in my classroom. So let's go ahead. We've got the A-N-K, ink sound, I-N-K, ink sound, O-N-K, onk sound, U-N-K, unk, O-N-G, ong, U-N-G, ung, A-N-G, ang, I-N-G, ing, F-F, L-L, ul, my double S, s. We had the A-L, which was all. If we remember, when you have the A before the L actually makes the A make the ah sound. We had the W-A sound, which said wah, and we learned again, if this time if I have an A after W, the W makes the A make the ah sound. So here W-A, it's saying wah, and in A-L, it's saying all. So in both of these, the A actually makes the short O sound. Then we had started to practice a little bit our vowel consonant E patterns, and we hadn't finished all of these yet. We had only done A consonant E, and we remember when we have that silent E at the end, it jumps over, makes the vowel say its long sound. And we remember my vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. The consonant that's in the middle is any other letter of the alphabet. So here, if I had A consonant E, the A would say the long A sound. And we had also practiced I consonant E before we left. And again, we remember when I have that E at the end, it jumps over the consonant and makes the I say its long name. So when I see this card, I consonant E, I want to remember the I is making the I sound. So we had not yet practiced all the rest of my vowel consonant E skills. So we're going to go back and we're going to practice the TCH skill. We had learned before we got out that TCH, just like CH, makes the ch sound. And I normally have TCH at the end of a word or the end of a syllable. So words like catch, fetch, patch all have the ch sound at the end, and it's being spelled with TCH. We're going to read a story today, and this story is called Yelp Mitch, and I'm going to hold it up for you and I'll read it. And after we get done reading it, we are going to work on this main idea and details organizer. So this is the part here that I was talking about. You may want to pause the video and draw these boxes just like we would in class. And we remember my main idea is what my story is mostly about. So what is the focus? What are we learning about in this text? What's going on? What's mainly happening? Then we get our supporting details. Those details are facts or examples that should make the main idea we decided true. So they should fit and support my main idea. So I'm going to read this story to you first, and it is called Yelp Mitch. And when we talk about that sound of yelp, normally that's kind of like a loud, annoying sound a dog might make, or an animal. Sometimes if you accidentally heard it, it might yelp out. It's just usually a loud, shrill sound. So Yelp Mitch. Mitch is a tan and black dog. Mitch has a black patch on his neck and on his left leg. Mitch yelps and yelps. Mitch yelps when the sun is up. Mitch yelps when the sun has set. Mitch yelps at the hens that scratch and cluck. Mitch yelps at the batch of chicks. Mitch yelps at the pet rabbits in the hutch. Mitch yelps at the skunk in the ditch. Mitch yelps when I catch a ball. Mitch yelps when I pitch the ball. Mitch yelps when I ask him to fetch the ball. Mitch yelps if I hitch him to a sled. And the word hitch just means to kind of hook up. So you might be putting his leash to the sled for Mitch to drag it. Mitch yelps when I ask him to pull the sled. Mitch yelps if Dad hums. Mitch yelps if Dad sings. But what can I tell him? Yelp, Mitch. Then Mitch will switch. Mitch will not yelp. So in this story, we have our dog, who's our main character, Mitch. And if I look at the title, it's entitled Yelp Mitch. And throughout the story, I've got a lot of those TCH words, not just in the name, so Mitch. I also have it, for example, in words like patch. I have it in the word, I saw scratch. I have batch here, scratch, pitch. So it's throughout this text, and we see it at the end of the words, and it's following a vowel. So again, remember, when I have that TCH at the end of a word after a vowel, it's just making that ch sound. So throughout the story, I want to think about, well, what is the main idea? What is mostly happening? And I kind of feel like throughout this story, in each paragraph, they're talking about different times when Mitch likes to yelp. But the whole passage is all about Mitch yelping at all different types of activities. So when we talk about the main idea, or what my text is mostly about, for this text, it is mostly about Mitch yelps. And it wasn't just one thing or two things, it was many things. And I'm just going to put during the day. So if you want to pause and you want to fill that in, go ahead. Now I need to look at all the details that show, well, what are the things that Mitch yelps at throughout the day? So if I look, I can just go back and I'm going to reread from the very beginning to see if I can start finding those examples. Mitch is a tan and black dog. Mitch has a black patch on his neck and on his left leg. Mitch yelps and yelps. Mitch yelps when the sun is up. Mitch yelps when the sun has set. Mitch yelps at the hens that scratch and cluck. Mitch yells at the batch of chicks. Mitch yelps at the rabbits in the hutch. Mitch yelps at the skunk in the ditch. So what I'm going to do is, I already see examples of what Mitch likes to yell at and when he does. So one example is he yelps when the sun is up, but he also does it when the sun sets. And then it also says that he likes to yelp, and there's lots of examples here, but I'm going to pick the first one. He yelps at the hens that scratch and cluck. So I'm going to add those times of him yelping throughout the day. So you guys can see. He yelps at the hens. He yelps when the sun comes up and when it sets. Now what I want to do is I want to keep reading and I want to find more examples of Mitch yelping throughout the day. So these are good details. So I found some details from the beginning of the text. I'm actually going to look now towards the bottom. So it says Mitch yelps if I hitch him to the sled. Mitch yelps when I ask him to pull the sled. Mitch yelps if Dad hums. Mitch yelps if Dad sings. But what can I tell him? Yelp, Mitch. Then Mitch will switch. Mitch will not yelp. Now, if I'm careful, down here at the bottom, this gives me an example of when Mitch doesn't yelp. The only time he doesn't want to yelp is when his owner asks him to. So then he's stubborn and he decides not to do it. I don't want to put that example at the bottom. That's not a good detail. It doesn't show me of a time when Mitch is yelping. So I don't want to put that information up there. I want to use something from up here. So I'm going to put that Mitch yelps if I hitch him to a sled and ask him to pull. That's another example. So we've got our main idea and our details, and that's all we're really doing today, just reviewing that TCH sound and then reviewing that comprehension skill. Now I have here 2 comprehension questions, okay? And you can again pause the video if you want, and if you would like, you can pause it and answer them, then come back and you'll be able to see the answers that I created. We could see if they match, or if not, you can just follow along. And my first question said, what did Mitch yelp at? And my second says, when did Mitch stop his yelps? Now, this first part, we actually had a lot of different details that give us some answers. So like all these things that we wrote down here, those are all examples of times when he yelps. So I'm going to write down what he does yelp at. And I can look in addition to just the details that I have about him yelping when the sun is up and when the sun sets. It talks also about, again, we wrote about him yelping at the hens, but I also have other animals that he likes to yelp at. He likes to yelp at chicks, rabbits, even a skunk. It talks about Mitch yelps when I catch a ball, when I pitch the ball, when I ask him to fetch the ball. So I'm going to put all those details into this first answer. I have to remember I have to write in a complete sentence, capital letters at the beginning, punctuation at the end. If there's a word that's in the text, I can go back and check it so I can do it for spelling. So what did Mitch yelp at? I need to tell who I'm talking about. And I'm going to try to list at least 5 things that he yelps at. Mitch yelps at the rabbits. And since I'm listing, whenever I list more than 2 things, and I move on to listing at least 3, I start using those commas. At the rabbits, when he plays with the ball, so that's the throwing or the fetching. At hens, it also said when dad hums. And I'm going to add one more, and that should be the 5th. And at skunks. I'm going to go back and read it to make sure it makes sense. Mitch yelps at the rabbits when he plays with the ball, at hens, when dad hums, and at skunks. Now, if you pause the video and you did some examples a little different or from the main idea chart, that's okay, as long as they were the correct examples. So when did Mitch stop his yells? And we saw this at the bottom of the story. He only stopped when the owner tells him to yelp. Like we said, he's being a little bit stubborn. Mitch stops when he is asked to yelp. And I'm going to put by his owner. Make sure it looks like it. So I'll reread it. And again, I've got a capital letter at the beginning, period at the end. Mitch stops when he is asked to yelp by his owner. And I know it's a complete sentence because a complete sentence has a who and a what. So who am I talking about? What is going on? I'm talking about Mitch, and I'm talking about what he's doing when he stops yelping. That's all we're going to do for today, guys. I will post this sheet here, and it's just fluency practice, just like when we were in class. If you want to pull it up on Dojo or print it out, go down, read those words. They're going to practice not just the TCH sound, but other sounds that we've practiced. So read the words, read the sentences. You can do it out loud or to yourself. If not, I will see you online for your live session next week, or you can come back here to watch the recorded video and get some more resources.